They're divided up basically completely equal, with some adjustment. I got some of the young kids we've got on the team that's going to scrimmage twice. Each team will scrimmage at least once, and one team will scrimmage twice, just the way it's set up with the red-white game on Sunday. So I divided the teams up equal with the idea that we want this to be a very competitive camp. I think there's tons of spots that are up for grabs.
Who do you have Sedina with?
We'll start that young line together that finished with Valeno and Rasmussen and Zadina, I think one of the things that you try to do is get people in spots where they're comfortable, and they just spent 4 games playing together for the most part, so we'll keep them together.
Is Zadina good to go after the injury the last game, and is anybody else banged up or maybe not available for the start?
Right now, McIsaac's not available. It would be the only one of those young guys that wouldn't be available. I don't think he'll be available for camp, but Zadina's good to go.
Is there any update, or what's Hank's status at this point?
Yeah, nothing from me today. We hope to have more for you tomorrow.
Jeff, before we start talking specifically about the Red Wings, your thoughts of, okay, prospect tournament. Yeah, you know what I mean. Just kind of overall what you saw and what you liked, maybe what you didn't like.
Well, I thought some guys had some real good tournaments. I know some guys really put a lot of work in this summer. I know Dennis Chalowski put lots of work in. Vili Siriarvi, I thought they had 2 real good camps. I thought Giovanni Smith had a real good camp. I thought the line of Valeno, Rasmussen, and Zadina all showed moments of being very good. So I think, overall, I thought it was great to see some of our young guys look like they've taken some steps and ready for this main camp.
One of the things we've always heard is that maybe 10, 20 years ago at Prospects Tournament when it first started, guys weren't as focused maybe or prepared, that they all have nutritionists. Hey, are you not amazed but really impressed with the way these guys approach their job, even though they're still very young men?
Well, I think as kids grow up today, and some of this is probably good, some's bad, but you get very, they get tons of training at a young age. They're coming in more prepared than ever. That's why I think you see more young guys have success in the NHL. It just feels like they're more prepared than ever, and so these guys they're ready for sure. They understand the importance of that prospects tournament. They understand it's a great chance to make a real good first impression. I also think sometimes it gives those guys an advantage coming into camp. I mean, they just went through 4 hard games, and so they're a little bit hardened here coming into camp. It's not just summer skates. They're ready to roll.
In putting together lines just for this part of camp up here, how much of it is fluid? I mean, how much do you look at, okay, maybe these guys are something I want to try in exhibition season, obviously those 3 kids, it's unlikely they're going to play together once an exhibition gets into swing.
Yeah, no, I would say I wouldn't read too much into the lines here to start. Though when you divide guys up into 3 teams, it's a little bit difficult to put guys on lines that you might foresee. And I would also say that I've just tried to put them in spots where that's just going to be real competitive. And those 3 young guys together, I think they get a chance to show what they can do on their own rather than maybe just benefiting from playing with somebody that's been in the league a long time. I think it's a great opportunity for those guys. But just across the board, I wouldn't read too much into the lines.
Do you expect this to be, I know every camp is competitive, but maybe a little bit more so with a few spots open and kids pushing?
Well, I think after I've said this lots now. After 2 years of not being good enough, I think it's as wide open as a camp as we've had here in a long time. I think it has to be based on the results we've had. I hope that a bunch of guys that were on our team last year got better this summer and they come back way better. And as a group, then we'll be a better team. And I hope a bunch of young guys are in position to really challenge and try to take other guys' jobs. And they can't be given jobs. If they're given jobs, that means they're not necessarily better. When they earn jobs by taking them, it means they're better than the guy's job they're taking. So I think it'll be ultra competitive in the sense that there's no question we're as open as we ever have been to the jobs being given to whoever earns it.
We talked to them as a group. I mean, what was the message heading into this thing?
I'll talk to him here in 2 hours so you guys get a preview. The message will be that. The message will be, I talked to a number of them this summer about getting better, and we sit in the room at the end of last year and we said we have to look from within. That's just the reality of today's NHL for the most part, outside of maybe one huge signing this summer. That's the reality of it. So let's make sure that as a group, this summer's a great chance. You got 4 months or whatever, too long a summer to just bear down and get better at a certain skill. And I urged them to do that when we left. I talked to them this summer, and I hope we have a whole room full of guys that got better. And if they didn't, then we got to find a way to replace them, because we need to make sure we're a better hockey team than we were at the end of last year.
With Valeno, with that keeping that line together, is part of the intrigue maybe also seeing how they do against presumably an NHL caliber line, because you saw how well they did in prospects, but now presumably you're going to match them against an NHL line.
Correct. I think in the scrimmage and probably the red-white game, we'll have them go against guys. They'll go against Larkin, they'll go against Nielsen, they'll go against Dublin, who's ever on those lines, and now they get to be able to show where exactly they stand without necessarily giving them any kind of crutch at all. It's a little bit of a, I don't want to say sink, because we're not going to let them sink, but it's a little bit of a sink or swim mentality where you got a chance to show that you're better than these other players, so go show it in those scrimmages. I think that'll make for a real competitive scrimmage, and again, that'll be the message. And I may use them in a preseason game to go up against NHL players, and again, try to avoid giving them a crutch where somebody's carrying them along. I want them to carry themselves, because for them to help us be better this year, they got to be able to carry themselves.
With Zetterberg out, how prepared do you think Larkin is to take over that #1 center role?
Well, I think Lark's spent lots of time last year as the #1 center. I think it was 50-50 or so in terms of who was kind of getting those types of minutes. Lark certainly would have had as big a matchup as Z at any point. Lark's would have had lots of power play time. Lark's would have had lots of PK time. So I think he's very prepared for it. I thought he had a real good year last year. I thought he took a huge step to being that two-way player that I think he can be, where he's real good defensively and yet put up 60-some points. I'd like to see, I think he'd like to see, can he get up in that 70-ish range or higher, and continue to work at his defensive game. And he's talked about making big plays in big moments, whether it's defensively or offensively, and so I think he's in a good spot. But these steps aren't easy. This will be another hard step for him. As you get up the pyramid, those steps get harder and harder and harder. So I hope he can take another one here this year. We're going to need him to.
Talking about Svechnikov.
Well, we'll see as we go along. I had thought of potentially playing him some at center here in camp, but I thought he played pretty well when he was on the wing. It certainly doesn't mean that I don't think he can play center, but right now he looks like he's done a real good job on the wing, so we're going to put him in a situation where I think gives him the best chance to shine, and right now that looks on the wing.
We've always talked about his hand-eye coordination, but he seems to have great playmaking ability. I know it was just prospects tournament, but once he parked himself behind the net, he was distributing the puck almost at will, it seemed like.
I actually think one thing he can get better at, and him and I've talked about this, is I think he can hold on to the puck, but I think he can still get better at making plays on the cycle. I think he's been able to make some real good plays when he's standing still, but I think when he gets his feet moving and he's cut back, and he's still got to be able to make some more of those plays on the cycle. A la Zetterberg and guys like that. Crosby can do that real well. So it's just something we'll work with him on. He was an excellent net front presence in the prospects tournament. He's a huge man who's got good eye hand, and he's got good ability to position himself. So that was a real good thing. I thought he was real good on the forecheck in the last game. Laid a couple big hits. If he does that, he's going to be on the puck lot. So I thought he had a good prospects tournament. Now he has to have a great camp.
Again, it's just the prospects tournament, but Cholowski seemed like he really, maybe, I don't know, did he kind of establish himself a little bit more in a lot of people's eyes, you think, in that tournament?
I thought he was excellent. I thought he controlled the play. I thought he made great decisions with the puck. I thought he pushed the puck up the ice. I thought he had the puck on his stick a ton. I thought he got better in the power play as the prospects tournament went along. I thought he showed very, very well. He showed really a reminder to me what he was like right after we drafted him in development camp. It was 4-on-4 summer hockey, but man, he had the puck the whole day and the whole game and would control it. And I think his confidence is back to that level. You know, he's a real not easy going, that's not the right word. He's not up and down emotionally. He's just a flat line emotion, and that can help guys have real good poise. And I thought he had real good poise and made tons of real good plays. So hopefully he can carry that confidence into camp. He looks like a guy that wants to push for a job.
Like a kid like that, you almost have to. You'd rather have him play every night rather than sit and be an extra, right? I mean, is there like a fine line there all the time?
Well, I think there's always a fine line, but I would also say that, you know, yes, I don't want him to sit in the stands. Nobody wants him to sit in the stands. I hope he can push for a job where he's playing for us. But he's got to go out and push for that job. You know, he's got to play great through the exhibition season here, and so we'll see. But certainly we wouldn't want him as the 7. If he was the 7, he'd be way better off playing in Grand Rapids and getting minutes. You know, he had a tough year 2 years ago. And then I thought last year was a real good confidence year for him. So we don't want to do anything to take away from his confidence. But with that said, if he makes us better, then he should be on our team. So we'll see.
Sorry, Arvy's in the mix too, right? I mean, we always talk about 4 legitimate prospects maybe on the back end that have the opportunity to make the team, but has Ville shown you enough that he's prepared too? He got caught in that numbers game last year in Grand Rapids between Toledo and Grand Rapids, especially when he takes on a man much bigger than him in Wade when he knocked.
Well, that was
Sedin
yeah.
out.
I mean, that was a good. What he did was great. I think it's awesome. Sticking up for his teammate, but I would also say right now for me, Ville would be best served playing a good year in the American League and having a great confidence year. You know, last year was an up and down year for him. I think he's taken great steps, but I think for me right now, my focus with him would be most likely he has a great camp. He gets in a number of exhibition games, and then he goes down and plays great in Grand Rapids. That would be my focus right now.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
Jeff.